All right, now pleased to welcome in none other than the NCAA's Dan Gavitt and David Warlock for the Goodman and Hummel pod. Unfortunately, Robbie Hummel has chosen, guys, to go to the chiropractor over you guys. I hope that's not too much of a hit on your ego, but Rob is preparing for the Olympics, so we got to give him that, right?
I've been done for far less.
At least it's not the dentist. It's no problem.
No, this is legit. This is absolutely legit. So hope you guys are doing well. Haven't seen you guys since, Dan, I saw you at Mohegan Sun, right? That was feels like moons and moons ago. I have not been to a game since, believe it or not. And it's not been a lot of fun sitting at home. Like, it's been good not traveling as much. I got to say that. As you get older, you guys know. It's good not to travel as much, but I miss talking to players and coaches and seeing you guys on the road. And I'm hoping I get to do this in a couple months in Indianapolis. Do we have any media? Are we going to be allowed to be there? Do we know yet? What's the deal, Warlock?
Yes, we will have some media. It'll be pretty restricted. I've had conversations with USBWA leadership and have given them a heads up as far as what we're doing. But we will have, some media there to cover the event. As far as access to the players and coaches, that'll be virtual, of course, as you might expect. But we're going to also provide the services for media not in attendance in Indiana to cover the event virtually with both post-game press conferences and traditional off-day as well. So we're going to try to accommodate you as best as you can so that you all can do your jobs in covering this great event.
Does this mean I have to kiss your ass even more, Warlock, to get onto the good list of the media where I can attend?
That's essentially what it means, yes. The thing I'm upset about is this was finally your year to be in a prime courtside seat, and now you have to go to the back of the line. So sorry.
All right. At least I'm going to be with everybody else. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of difference between me and whoever the A-list celeb media person is this year. All right. So the hot button topic, I think, this week, to some degree, has been conference tournaments, Dan. And there's some thought of what a teams do, what a leagues do. Obviously, there's money to be made from these conference tournaments, even without fans there through TV contracts. But a lot of coaches that I talk to are saying, well, listen, if I'm in the tournament anyway, why am I going to go to a conference tournament and risk a player getting COVID or hurting my seed or whatnot? There's so many different things. And then if one school bails out, what does the rest of the league do? How have you thought about this and how it can affect the NCAA tournament?
Well, it is complicated, like most things in this environment, Jeff, as you note. We've had some discussions with basketball committee on the topic, and we'll have more. We don't have any specific position on it at the moment. I think generally speaking, we're supportive of the conference tournaments. It's our membership. It's how the tournament actually starts, as you well know. I mean, it is how teams play their way into March Madness, and when 80% of the teams that play college basketball don't make the tournament, it's their postseason championship experience, and then those that win get to play in March Madness. So we're hopeful but understanding of the complications around it. At this point, I think it's probably the general feeling is that this has to be a local decision, an institutional and conference decision, because every situation is different. Some conference tournaments you're talking about are one bid leagues, and many others are multiple team bid, coming out of the conference tournament. Some events are played the week before Selection Sunday, and some lead up to and play on Selection Sunday. So, it's a complicated one, like most things, but I think probably the general feeling is, with more discussion to come, that those are decisions that have to be made at a local, institutional and conference level rather than be mandated in some way by the NCAA Tournament Committee.
So my big kick has been how much conversation was there about actually having a true bubble before the season? Why not spend NBA spent about $150 million from what it was out there, and they did it for what, 3 months? Not as many teams, but a longer period of time. Was there conversation, and was it real, about spending the money? I mean, you guys have $800 million probably at stake here for the NCAA tournament. Why not put $100 million of that to ensure that we're going to have an NCAA tournament that hopefully doesn't have any glitches, unless Lou Williams somehow appears, throughout it?
Well, we've had all sorts of consideration and obviously, observed what everyone else has done successfully and what the challenges have been, not just in basketball, but in other sports as well. And taking into consideration how this whole thing has evolved. And I think that, the committee and the staff feel cautiously optimistic and confident that we have a really solid plan to have a successful tournament, first and foremost, to keep everybody healthy and safe, but secondarily also to have a great competition to determine a worthy national champion. And we don't believe that it necessitates a very expensive, as you note, effort to make a more tight bubble, that this controlled environment that we are creating or in the process of creating in Indianapolis can and will work. It's more akin to what we've seen schools operate during the regular season, both in basketball and football and other sports. And, over a 3-week time period, we feel like it can be successful. And, look, there are differences, as we know, too. I mean, these are college students and athletes. And fortunately, from an academic perspective, most of them are studying virtually now. So that will mitigate some of being away from campus for those week to 2 or 3 weeks. But, the money is also a factor, though, Jeff, too. I understand your point about, the revenue that we could use towards the expenses of having a championship. But we're also running 70 other NCAA championships this year, the women's championship and other fall championships going to be run in the spring, and then spring championships planned as well. And all of that revenue goes towards running all the other events, and then of course providing significant distribution back to the membership, which helps to run their intercollegiate athletic program. So a lot of complication. I think it's a reasonable question you ask, but I think we're in the right place, we feel, and now we just need to execute on a solid plan.
I think I just worry, right? And I think a lot of people do. I'm sure you guys are concerned with, all right, once the tournament starts, what happens if God forbid, Gonzaga, somebody from their tier 1 tests positive, or Baylor? What happens? I guess my question to you would be, what happens? Do we stop the tournament? If that happens at the Final Four, does life go on? And hey, listen, kind of the way it's been for a lot of schools, they shut down for 2 weeks or 7 days or 10 days. What's the protocol right now for how you'd handle that?
Well, whether it's the controlled environment we created or the bubble that the NBA created, it's only as good as everybody's, discipline within it. Because you can test every day, which we're going to do, and the NBA did every day. You can have the most safe and healthy protocols in place with physical distancing and sanitation of your hands and food and everything else. But if the weakest link breaks that chain, then you've got a problem. I think we feel, again, cautiously optimistic and confident that student athletes and coaches and everybody involved is going to be in all this together, and they're going to do the right thing. They have to, or it could result in it not being as successful as we all hope and envision it to be. There's no reason to believe that a team will be knocked out if there's a single positive case, as long as they're following the medical protocol in a very disciplined way. Because contact tracing should not result in what we've arranged here to knock out an entire team. As long as masks are worn, 6 feet of physical distance at all times, and not eating, and having meals, in an undisciplined way. But again, that's going to get down to the teams. And I will say that, while all the teams that I've observed during the season are doing the right things, I wouldn't say that's the case with all of them. And getting more disciplined and compliant with the regimented health protocols down the home stretch here and heading into conference tournaments and in the NCAA tournament will be vitally important. I can't underestimate that, underscore that enough, because the best protocols aren't effective if they're not followed in a very disciplined way.
So just to clarify, what you're saying is, hey, if somebody does test positive with one of these teams, life goes on. Life goes on. That player has to apply to the necessary, whether it's 7 days in the bubble in Indianapolis?
If it's a positive test, I mean, it's isolation for at least 10 days, and if it's a close contact, then, it could be upwards of 14 days. There is a chance that if it's a close contact that you can test out after 7 or 10 days, depending on where we are in the tournament. But to your specific question, it's not really an event that you can pause or postpone very easily, right?
No,
So,
you're right.
but again, we're going to provide an incredible environment and the testing necessary to make sure that everybody's healthy and safe. And then it's up to the teams to do the right thing, and not only for their own team, but for all their opponents too, and help us get to a national champion that will be very worthy at the end of it.
No, I think, listen, we're all rooting for it, no doubt. When I was in Mohegan Sun, is interesting because, you heard from all the players and coaches, they couldn't leave their rooms and go anywhere without an escort. I could. I didn't play any blackjack until I was on my way out, I promise. But ultimately, what are they going to be allowed to do? Like in the NBA, obviously they're allowed to golf. They're allowed to, take walks outside. But again, it was a bubble. It was in Orlando. Here, I assume they're not going to be allowed to just take a walk, down, to whatever it is, Steak and Shake, whatever it's called down in downtown Indy. That I know Warlock's been to in the wee hours of the morning. But, what are they going to be allowed to do? Is it just literally, hey, you're taking a bus to practice, you're taking a bus to the games, you can go to meals, but you have to socially distance with masks? Like, are they, this is 22 days? 22 days they're going to be there from start to finish. Potentially, if they go to the national title game, that's a long time to tell these kids they can't really do much of anything.
Well, you're right. For the two teams that play a national championship, it'll be that long. For the other among the other 68 teams, 52 of them, 3/4 of the field will be home in a week. Right. They'll be in Indy for 1 week, and it'll be busy. Especially that first week. It involves the teams coming in having to isolate in their hotel rooms for more than 24 hours, just more than 24 hours, to have 2 negative PCR tests before they can come out and start practicing and game preparation, which is very similar to, like my son's in college, and that's exactly what happens when he goes back to school for the second semester, right? He's stuck in his room for 24 hours waiting test results. So unfortunately, that's become common. Then they'll have a few days to practice. There are a dozen practice courts in the Indiana Convention Center, all of which are connected to the 4 hotels we're going to use. So they can walk back and forth. They'll have team meeting space in the convention center for team meetings, for film sessions, for team meals. So they'll have, some freedom in that way. And we're setting up some, as the tournament advances, we'll set up some lounges that they can, go and get away from their rooms. Of course, even those have to be set up, physically distant. There's just no way around that. We need to, create an environment that eliminates or mitigates the need for contact tracing, to the very initial question you asked, so that we don't jeopardize having an entire team, become, ineligible or sick. It will be a different experience. What I think gives me and the committee hope and some confidence is that, as you know, going all the way back to Mohegan Sun, which was the very first week of the season, teams have been operating in this environment since late November. And I think they've learned a ton. We've learned a ton from their experience and from the successful MTEs, that took place. And so we know what works, right? And the teams know what work, and they know what doesn't work as well. And how to mitigate that risk. And while there's no, perfect, solution, or, we believe that there's enough learning and experience that has led to what we hope and think will be a successful event.
Fans. I'm sure all fans want to know, like, are any fans going to be allowed? I'm assuming that's not the case, but I don't know. What have you decided with fans?
Well, we have pre-approved, and it was fundamental to our decision to have the entire tournament in Indiana, that for each of the 67 games, players and coaches, family members will be in attendance. So that's guaranteed, even if things, were to, God forbid, get worse, with the pandemic, that they'll be in attendance at the games. We made a conscious decision with the Marion County Health Department not to make a call on fans as of the first of the year, because we just thought it needed more time to see how things hopefully improve. We'll make that determination by early February or thereabouts. There have been fans at Colts games, for example, upwards of 20% at one point, although it reduced to 10% near the end of the NFL season. Butler's had fans at Hinkle Fieldhouse in limited capacity. The Pacers are about to start to welcome some fans as well. So there's a possibility, but it will really be driven by, health and safety and what we can manage. So we're hopeful, but time will tell. It's the most important thing was the family members, and we got that pre-approved, or else that would have been a deal breaker coming in
the media, Dan. Also the media. Don't forget about the media.
Warlock took care to make sure of that.
I know he has. I know you got to get out of here, and then we're going to go to our B-list guy, Warlock, after you leave us. What's your confidence level right now, Dan? Like, if I said, 0 to 100, your confidence level that we're going to have a tournament and it's going to go off well from start to finish this year, you feel pretty good about it?
I do. I feel very good about it. Very confident about it. I'm respectful of the challenges around it. I have not slept well for weeks, and I don't think I'll sleep well again until the middle of April.
You don't look like you've lost any more hair, Dan, though. You got most of your hair there.
I haven't either.
Don't look inside.
Listen, it's been a long time.
I do live in dread fear that the team could be impacted, and their experience could be, diminished in some way by things that, would be somewhat out of their control. But as I noted earlier, much of it is in their control. And I think we have a good solid plan in place. We're going to great lengths to make sure that everybody's, kept healthy and safe. And we've seen success in other events, although 68 teams, is a big number, I think it'll be a little more manageable. It'll feel so, at least after the first week when we get down to 16. But I've got a high level of confidence that this is going to be a successful event. It has to be, that's our job, and it's important for the players and coaches, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure it happens.
I want to know whose dog is it?
That's mine. He's a black lab. Yeah, he's a watchdog. Yeah.
Go take your dog for a walk. We'll let Warlock take center stage here, and I'm going to grill him. Like nobody else has ever grilled Warlock before. So
I'm just going to say I defer to Dan's comments. True story, by the way. Dan's dog is named Fenway, and my dog is named Bronx. So the Yankees
nice. Very good. Very good.
Live.
Listen,
you got to take it a little easy on Warlock, though. He's still licking his wounds from the Bills game last night.
Yeah, you're right. We got to get into that a little bit. Dan, I appreciate it. You know what I think of you, way more than I do of Warlock. So I hope to see you in Indianapolis about 7 weeks away. So yeah. I can't wait. My big first question to Warlock when you get off is, I hope you got me at the nice Marriott.
Dave's got you taken care of. Feelings mutual, Jeff. Thanks. Appreciate you, man.
Take care, Dad. Be well.